I'm passing little white lines and my eyes are roving wide. Just past a Jimmy and a white. I've been passing everything in sight. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Ed with Redneckanize Radio. We're here live here, Sunday evening, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You can call in at 515-602-9731 to join the conversation. Just listen along. We're also on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Listen along or watching. Comment if you got anything else. If you want the show, just give us a call. Like I said, 515-602-9731. Want to give a special shout out to one of our great sponsors, and that's Load to Ride Transportation at ltrtransportation.com. A great little trekking outfit out of Denver, Colorado. And they do it all, man. They got the expedited and hazmat and, supply chain, just, keeping up with everything. So one of those carriers that looks after the drivers, make sure they got plenty of work to do. So give them a holler over there. Like I said, ltrtransportation.com. We appreciate their support of Redneckanize, and let's keep it going. So we're just talking about a few things. I saw in the news that Walmart's going to start paying their drivers $110,000 a year. That's just to start out. I don't even know if they'll give you a raise after that. I mean, shoot. That's pretty much, I think, top pay nowadays. If you're a company driver, you can make about $100,000 a year. That's pretty much about right. We'll talk about that a little bit. There's a couple articles that I wanted to read and everything. But first, I wanted to check out something real quick. I thought was really cool. And I'm a big follower of the Daily Wire. That's over there. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's, the Ben Shapiro show. And they got the other people over there that do that stuff. And it's a more of a conservative, like talking points and everything. And they're always looking out for, I think they want to talk about things that regular people or regular news is not talking about. And there was an article here. It's by David Marcus. It was put out maybe sometime late last week. And I just flagged it. I wanted to talk about it on the radio show here because it's about Canada and what happened there. And the name of the article is just "The Truckers Won." And so it starts off. It says the trucks have left Parliament Hill. The sleepy Canadian capital of Ottawa is quiet once again. But for 3 weeks, something happened outside the seat of the national government, a movement that shook the benches of that austere body that led to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau revealing himself as an enemy of the basic democratic freedoms. It says over the weekend, Ottawa police, apparently acting under the directive of Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act, swept through the crowd of protesters, injuring some and ending a demonstration that became a global symbol of those ready to abandon COVID restrictions and get life back to normal. Says the truckers can claim victory at least two significant levels. First, the roughly 21 days that they set up camp there in Ottawa saw an enormous number of COVID measures relaxed. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, among others, ludicrously claimed the relaxation had nothing to do with the truckers, but if so, it's quite a coincidence. Says the second and maybe more important victory the truckers gained was to expose Justin Trudeau, his party, and his psychophanic, or is that sick fanatic? Is that what that word is? Says state-run Canadian news media as authoritarians more than willing to lie in order to tighten their grip over the lives and minds of the people. Those lies included falsely painting the protesters as white supremacists. Let us not forget that at the beginning of this movement, Trudeau laughed it off as a small fringe group of racist yokels, a small fringe that soon had him invoking an Emergencies Act for the first time in history. And what did he accuse these truckers of? These men and women who had been our heroes not long ago. He accused them of holding unacceptable views. It says by the end of last week, these peaceful protesters with the unacceptable views would be smeared not only by Trudeau and his disdainful cabinet, but by Ottawa police, who tweeted out allegations that they were engaged in assaultive behavior. Amazingly, in this day and age, and there's no video evidence of this supported assaultive behavior, that there is video of his mounted police trampling Canadian citizens protesting for their God-given rights. And it isn't just horses' hooves that these concerned citizens had to fear. The police have their hands in these people's bank accounts too, promising financial retribution for the demonstrators. It says this is the true crux of Trudeau's dastardly and ludicrous emergency powers. Powers he laughingly promised are temporary. For all intents and purposes, he and his lackeys have installed a social credit system, a form of manipulation that China would admire. You want to criticize the government? Go ahead, but don't be surprised if your bank account is frozen. Oh, and not just if you physically protested, but also if you took the dangerous and now illegal step of sending the protesters a few bucks for food or fuel. Says the problem for Trudeau, too quite an old protesting adage, is that the whole world is watching. And unlike Canadian news media, most of the world doesn't work for him. Even American progressives who crave COVID restrictions, uh, like the you know, it says are a bit of shocked and by the they were shocked by the actions by the little dictator with the expensive blowout. In Canada itself, most conservative politicians, to the extent such people exist by American standards, started off very critical of the Freedom Convoy. That was disappointing, but when Trudeau went nuclear with the Emergencies Act, the conservatives, under new, hopefully more aggressive leadership, pounced, embarrassing and floundering Trudeau in Parliament with withering speeches about his egregious overreach. In the end, this band of truck drivers in Ottawa, who never amounted to much, more than a few hundred souls, notwithstanding the thousands who would join them for the weekend dance parties, sent a horn blast heard through the world. And the world is listening as almost everywhere COVID restrictions fall away, promising finally, maybe, or the ability to move on from the pandemic. The article continues on. It keeps talking about, all the just the things that happened. We all remember wasn't that long ago that the COVID restrictions just fell. I mean, every major city in America, every country just started lifting it, and it basically didn't start until this Canadian protest started. It says here, but for Justin Trudeau and his cheerleaders, who seem to wish they ruled in the system like China's rather than the free democracy, this episode ripped open the false facade of their so-called liberalism, revealing the authoritarian monster at their core. Make no mistake, the truckers won. They may pay dearly, as some have the hands of aggressive police and others have, but will through outrageous financial penalties. But they went head to head with their government and made their government look like fools. And for that, every lover of freedom should be grateful. And that's that, and that's from the Daily Wire, David Marcus over there. And I just thought it was really interesting how he just basically breaks it all down, that you know because of them and how the government reacted really was the main thing. The government reacted so harshly when they started freezing bank accounts, and basically they were lying. I mean, we saw that. They were calling them white supremacists or racist, and I'm like, you know what? Just show me a video. I'll believe you. Just show me a video. Show me a picture. And they only had one, and the picture was of a person that was completely concealed. You couldn't even see the person. They were wearing masks and gloves and wraps, and I mean, it was like they were going out of their way to make sure that you didn't see this person's identity at all. Nothing. And it was one person standing by themselves, not in a crowd of people or anything like that. You didn't even know if they were actually standing, in the same area that they were protesting. So that was the only one I saw. If anybody else has anything, show me. I'd love to see it. But that's what it was. There's no evidence. Of course, we did see horses trample the protesters. We had people getting arrested for bringing empty gas cans. One guy had gas cans sitting on his catwalk, and the cops walked over and just took them. And they said we're not gonna let him have it. So that kind of deal. I just thought that was really interesting that those that they wrote an article about this, talking about it, and we're going to try to share the hell of it, because hey, it's always a great message to let people know that the truckers did the right thing, and they won because of it. So that kind of stuff is what I really like. I really like seeing that. So. But that's what we're talking about over here. Talking about everything. I got another article I found where they were talking about the truck drivers at Walmart are going to start getting paid more money, and then in trucking, of course, earlier this week, Joe Biden had a little event outside of his of the White House, talking about how great trucking is. So he had a little article in the Business Insider. I think that was Yahoo that did that. I mean, there's some pretty good mainstream articles that got for trucking news. I mean, you got CNBC. They say that they're talking about the Walmart paying the drivers. Of course, NBC. That's pretty much the big thing. And then over here in Freight Waves, it says Utah trucking company shutters livestock division after 37 years. And then let's see. Oh, we got some funny stuff here about SNL talking about truck driving songs. So might check that out, see what that looks like. But over here, we're just talking about stuff. Like I say, you can call in at 515-602-9731, Redneckanize Radio. And we're just going to keep along here. So we'll be back in a second.
Hey, pretty baby, don't you know it ain't my fault. I love to hear the steel bell thumping on the asphalt. Wake up in the middle of the night in a truck stop, stumble in a restaurant. Wonder why I don't stop. Well, I gotta keep rocking while I still can. Got a 2-pack habit and a motel 10. When my boots hit the boards, I'm a brand new man. With my back to the rise and make my stand. Hey, pretty baby, won't you hold me tight? I'm loading up and rolling out of here tonight. One of these days I'm gonna settle.